Now, let's go on over to the breakdowns of everything. There's a lot of groups, a lot of teams to discuss. So, start things off in Group A, the champions of MPL Malaysia. You got Todak, will be the first one we're going to be talking about right now. If you go on over to the Covenry page, of course, we have all of our scouting reports. The Todak one, if I'm not mistaken, was made by Sona. And so, ito yung nilagay ni Sona as his key players for Todak. You have Momo, of course. I think for everyone who's been following MLBB Esports, sabihin natin maybe at least since M2, kilalang-kilala na si Chiku or Chiku guys. From wherever you're watching, top heroes for the team are Atlas, Kufra, Beatrix. Burger Kim, what do you know of, or what do you remember about Todak that people have to watch out for sa MSC?
Well, in general, I actually watch all the MPLs, Malaysia, Singapore. I'm like that. I just enjoy other regions as well. I feel like it's a little bit more diverse. Like when I watch other MPLs, so I actually was one of the teams that caught my eye because they really love to draft differently. I think a lot of the casters mentioned this as well before. Like they love to. I mean, the Lunox jungle, right? I mean, they love uncontemporary picks, and I feel like that's one of the things I'm a fan of as well. You know, bringing something new because most of the time, well, if you're casting, if it's in the meta, most of the time it's just gonna rotate around the same heroes. But for Todak, I feel like they are one of the teams that are super unpredictable. You don't know what they'll bring out. Like, who knows? They might bring out the Aldous again or something totally different. So I feel like they're a team that you guys have to watch out for. And like what Renmar mentioned, Chico guys, Momo, they also love not just their heroes, they also love rotating their players.
Yeah, I think to
Bring out something.
finish off what. Okay, there we go. All right, so we lost Burger Kim for a moment there, but what Burger Kim said there near the end was that the players love rotating their positions actually. So sometimes you find Chico in the jungle. There was a time where he also played it in the gold lane, but I think recently Chico has been consistently back in the jungle. But there are players in Todak who swap their position around. Let's see if they're gonna do that for MSC. That might be their ace up their sleeve. So I think Burger King was actually able to perfectly encapsulate Todak unpredictability in terms of how they play, in terms of how they draft, who they pick, who's gonna be playing what position. Although medyo nahirapan yung Todak, or I think most of the members of Todak noong SEA Games, you can't count them out in international tournaments. I think my biggest question to Todak is, what version of Todak are you getting today? Is it a great Todak, a good Todak, or a Todak that's gonna struggle? All right, so remember that about Todak. Next team up in Group A, we actually have Falcon from the Myanmar qualifiers, which I will admit I have not seen a lot of, but they do have players very familiar to me, Justin and Silent. Dati silang Ronin Esports, kung di ako nagkakamali. Ronin from Myanmar. MPLI, ko sila yung huling nakast. Naisu, any info that you can share about Falcon Esports?
I mean, with Falcon, it's one of those teams, you don't have a ton of info on. And like you mentioned, you know, they had, I think it's actually, in my notes here, that I think it's 3 players, right? 3 players from Ronin who actually defeated Todak before. And, you know, I feel like Falcon is just one of those teams that they have all the potential in the world to surprise people. But if you watch closely their gameplay, from what I've seen, the research that I've done on them, they sometimes get a little overzealous, and sometimes they overextend or make mistakes, and that is usually what sets them back, and kind of what they have like a weak, their main weak point, honestly. And also some of the stuff that they play is like old meta. Like, it's not, I don't know if that's just what they're comfortable with, and they're trying to make it work the best that they can. But that's just from what we've seen, you know. And again, it's just, I feel like they have the potential to surprise people, but with Falcon, it's their overextending and kind of that aggression that doesn't pay off for you, and then it ends up setting you back. So hopefully they've kind of recalibrated going into MSC, because that's the thing. I mean, we can talk about all the teams here, which we will, and it's when you consider MSC, there's going to be so many variables and factors that will play an effect here for the entire tournament, especially the opening part of group stages. So Falcon, again, once can be a surprise, but from what we've seen so far in the games available online, they definitely have to fix some of those weaknesses that they have.
Yeah. When I was going through the clips of Falcon versus, if I'm not mistaken, it was Trend in the Myanmar qualifiers, like everything that you mentioned, it's like in terms of their weakness being quite easily read, and sometimes they might overcommit in some things. I remember reading that from Leo's report on this. Yeah, I think for Falcon, there are some things that they still need to work on. However, who knows? They might just be able to surprise, and that's what I love about the regional tournaments or international tournaments from other countries, na di mo talaga matatanggal yung factor ng surprise. Kasi baka ma-surprise tayo ng resulta, a team, a player. So there, that's a lowdown on Falcon from Naisu. And the last, not the least, team from Group A, Onyx Esports from Indonesia, couldn't get the back-to-back. They dropped the RK Hoshi in their grand finals this season. However, I think the members of Onyx Esports, still, they are a team to watch out for. You have Kiboy, Drian, CWS key players, as noted down by... I'm trying to find out who wrote this. It was Brigida, our very own Brigida, who put this. And Berkim, for Onyx, your thoughts from the Indonesian representatives?
Well, I love MPL Indonesia. I mean, there was a time that MPL Indonesia and MPL Philippines were playing at the same time, or maybe even like Indonesia was playing a little bit later. So I would like watch from time to time. I'd switch to the Philippines, then I'd switch to Indonesia. But they always have like a very interesting meta. For Onyx Indonesia, I feel like, I mean, definitely they'll go far. I mean, it's Indonesia, right? We can't deny that they're also like one of the powerhouses when it comes to MLBB. But I think Onyx Esports in general, they play a lot around Kiboy. Like Kiboy can play those heroes like he can play tanks. He can play like a Roamer Selena, a nasty Roamer Selena. So those are the things that you guys have to watch out for as well. And I feel like another key player, like what Brigida mentioned, is Drian. Drian has a lot of heroes under his belt, so I feel like that's something that, in general, everyone in MSC has to watch out for. So for me, key players, I do agree, it's Kiboy and Drian for Onyx Indonesia.
Well said. Onyx ID, let's see if they can replicate a good MSC run, sort of like the same kind of MPL Indonesia Season 9 run they had, but maybe this time even win the championship. So those are the teams for Group A. You have Onyx Indonesia or Onyx Esports. You have Falcon from the Myanmar qualifiers, and you have Todak, the champions of MPL MY. Don't forget, later, meron tayong mga predictions. So if you have your predictions of your own, keep those ready or share them now. Or actually, no, save it for later so we can actually also talk about your predictions as well. Because if you send it now, it's going to get flooded. We might have to scroll back. It'll be difficult. All right, let's just move on to Group B before I dig an even deeper hole that I find myself in. In Group B, you have the champions of MPL Philippines here. Walang kabias. RSG Philippines. You have Light.
Aqua, definitely
Nas.
5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. 5-star threat level. Cho, Esmeralda, Eve. I think those are actually like, these are perfect for who. Okay, I might actually forget that I wrote the RSG one, and then I'm gonna actually like end up praising myself. Yeah, it was Leo. It was Leo who wrote the RSGPH one. Yeah, very good picture of RSGPH as a team there. Wait, okay, now
I'm joking.
Now that. No, I'm gonna give you the opportunity, Naisu. It's your time to shine. Like, what's your take on RSGPH?
I'll tell you what, man.
I feel like Naisu has a lot to say.
No, it's just, I mean, there's people just know I love RSG ever since, right? And I've mentioned it plenty of times, but I just feel like they don't have a weakness. I mean, some people might think Coach Panda, who's not going to be there physically, could be a weakness, maybe. But at the same time, I'm sure he's going to be involved. Plus, they have, Coach Coach G is there, and the guy does a great job anyway. So I don't know how that's all going to play a factor. But RSG, what can you say about them other than that they are a stellar team with just individually high-skilled players on each role? And, this time I'm going to point out Emon, because Emon is one of the ones that you just don't pay a lot of attention to. This kind of happens for some gold laners, and they're just like a sleeping giant. Like, for the majority of the game, you don't see much of them, and then all of a sudden they kind of pop off, and that's Emon here. So with RSG Philippines, man, I honestly... spoiler alert, I think they're going to win the whole thing. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I think they...
It's a statement.
You can quote me on it if you want. I absolutely feel very strongly about RSG Philippines. So there we go. 5 stars. If we could give them 10, we'd give them 10.
That's nice who's take on
Times
RSGPH. Yeah, times 2. Di ba nga nag-umpisa yung prediction phase natin? That's in the second half of the show. He already dropped his hottest prediction right there. So, nice who's love for RSG. But, yes, what you said is very true. Again, walang kabayas-bias, guys. Come on. Nakita natin yung season ng RSGPH. Let us just see if they'll be able to replicate that for MSC 2022.
Ooh. Can I add something to RSG?
Go ahead.
Yeah, because Naisu pointed out Eman, right? And I actually had the privilege of talking to RSG backstage in MPL season 9. Yeah, so we got to interview them after they won, and it's quite interesting that Eman was actually a jungler. So we actually asked Coach Panda, okay, Coach Panda, why did you switch Eman from, like, why didn't he just do like the jungler role, right? I mean, you could like switch out Eman and Demon Kite, but Coach Panda was just like, we feel like Eman has that sort of aggression. He knows when to go in when it's time. He knows his power spike as well. That's why he was switched to the gold laner instead of the jungler. But he was originally a jungler. So I feel like I do have to agree with Naisu there. Eman is also one of the players that people have to watch out for. And it's also nice that, I don't know, in general for RSG, I feel really nice. I have a good feeling about them when I talk to them backstage. They're just a mix of different people who just want to win it all, like what Naisu said. So I feel like this will be a good year for them.
Let's see if that will be the case. And before we move on to see you soon, I'm glad you brought that up, Burger King, because if I'm not, I forgot the exact number. Like, it's been a long time since I looked at stats, but I think Eman had some of the least deaths as a gold laner throughout MPL Philippines Season 9. The least amount of deaths as a gold laner, I think, was Benny Cutie, but Eman was in the top 5 or top 4. So Eman's a very difficult gold laner to take down, and it ties in with what you mentioned, with what Coach Panda mentioned, na he knows his power spikes, he knows his timings, when to go into a fight, when to immediately go away. So I'm glad you brought that up, Burger Kim. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the rest of Group B. See you soon is the second team there. The team from MPL Cambodia, if I'm not mistaken.
Cambodia?
Yeah. Yep, Cambodia.
Yeah.
Cambodia.
Ember Boxy and Ra as their key players. Savior, I don't know why I repeated his name like that. Savior, Karina, Angela.
Ra. That's why.
I didn't expect a Lady Gaga reference in this show, but thank you for dropping that. That gave me life.
I was gonna put out like a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, but never mind.
Wait, no, bring it. What reference? I want to hear this.
Yu-Gi-Oh, do you guys play that? Winged Dragon
Yes.
of Ra? That's the first thing that came into my mind. I don't know. I feel like I'm such a nerd when I say it out loud, but there you go. I'm so sorry,
nerds.
guys. I'm a huge nerd.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Winged Dragon of Ra was a card that I never got because it was rare or it was expensive.
Obviously.
Now,
It's super rare.
before this becomes a Yu-Gi-Oh show, see you soon. 3 stars. Let's see who wrote this. It was Brigida who wrote this.
Mhm.
Now for SYS, honestly, I haven't watched a lot of the latest split of Cambodia, so I'm blind with SYS. So which of you two can fill me in, like share with me some knowledge about this team, because I got nothing. I don't know much about them ever since like the latest season.
Well,
I'm trying to
I've
remember.
had the
Was there
privilege
an English
to
broadcast? Oh yeah, it was you. It was you, right,
for
Burger?
oh
Was
yeah, I
it?
think
No,
it
no,
was
no, they
me.
weren't.
But no.
Mm.
They didn't play, but they went up against DG Quantum, if you're familiar with that name.
Ah, yeah, okay.
DJ Quad.
Yeah, but they beat.
No, yeah, that's right. There was no English.
Okay.
Yeah. No, anyways.
Yeah.
Burger Kim, you were saying something earlier, like you had a privilege to talk to with someone from SYS?
I feel like I've casted one of their games or not, but they were in M3, right? See you soon. Is this the same team? See you soon in M3, or is it another team?
Yes.
Yes. That was December. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much the same
It's the
member.
same.
Yes.
I feel,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they have they're playing around a similar draft like DG Quantum, because the meta in Cambodia, it's pretty much like they're revolving around like certain heroes style. So I think see you soon. They're the kind of team that you guys can read after a while. Like they draft, like maybe they have 3 different strategies. They bring out like 1 or 2, and then if it doesn't work, they bring out another one. So I feel like they can be read. But at the same time, sometimes it works out for them, sometimes it doesn't. So I feel like see you soon. They have to work on that. Like maybe bring out some different strategies if they want to win this MSC.
Same members, from what I'm getting here, is same members as M3. However, they do have a new jungler, and I think Sensei is the name of their new jungler, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look at the.
Sensei.
Yes, it is there. You see Sensei, and looking at the clips, looking at the draft, it is very similar. And what I love about it is, for some reason, when I think of See You Soon and when I think of MPL Cambodia, I think of Popol and Koopa. And I find it funny how in this clip that we're watching right now, from their semifinals,
There is a
you see a
Popol and Koopa.
Popol and Koopa there. So it's like,
Mhm.
some things never change. But in terms of the picks, nakita mo, you see Masha there, you see Savior there, a Karina jungle with oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name of emblems. What's the name of the emblem, guys? It's been a
Demon
while.
Slayer?
Demon Slayer?
Demon Slayer. Oh my god.
Oh,
There you
Casted in a
go.
month.
How can you
I haven't
forget
casted
Demon
in a
Slayer?
month. I haven't casted in a month, and I don't play jungle. Okay, so I'm sorry, but okay. Looking at what Brigida mentioned, some of the things that Burger King mentioned is actually very true. I'm reading off of what Brigida put in her scouting report. Wide hero pool, unexpected ideas. Although it is surprising that they can make things work, and it's interesting that she brought this up. I think, and this is very similar for other younger MPL countries, in terms of polish, in terms of refinement. Those are the things that I think for the younger regions, they are the biggest questions for them, because meta can be very unique and change. Even younger countries can bring out a new meta, but it's the refinement, the execution is the biggest question. So maybe it's the same idea as well for See You Soon. Now let's go back to our correspondent, RSG Superfan Naisu, but now for RSG SG, thoughts on the SG counterpart of RSG?
You know, RSG Singapore is, they're a little more telling in their weaknesses here. I will commend Diablo though, because I believe XP lane Diablo is somewhat, I don't want to say he's on the same level as like Navs or something, but the guy is amazing. He's an amazing XP laner, and I think he has the potential to, like, when you say like an XP laner can carry games, it's like, how do they do that, right? It's the way, the decision making that they make when, let's say, big objectives are being taken, the way that they push around the map, their game sense, they know that they don't have to be at certain team fights. They get value there, the zoning potential. I think he's honestly one of the players that you could say to really look out for RSG Singapore. But at the same time, And this is kind of what I've seen from some of the teams. Like they'll have like a really star player type thing going on, and if that player struggles or something, or let's say the jungle can't perform very well, the teams kind of crumble or fall apart. Now with RSG Singapore, I feel like they have multiple players that do have that potential, but it takes certain scenarios or things to happen for them to get there. So I will say that Evo Singapore obviously has a lot more weaknesses than their counterpart, but they still play it very, very well. And I gotta say too, with 505 mid. So wait, 505 is not playing here, is he? Like in this? Wait, he is. Okay, 505 mid.
He
Yes,
Yeah, he
the
is.
Lilia, right? This guy also reminds me of a version. So like it's weird because you have the counterparts, right? But it's like I don't want to say it's like a weaker counterpart because they have proof of amazing gameplay. Like what I was gonna say with 505 reminds me a lot of like Aqua, right? Like he has these amazing games, especially on the Lilia, especially on those mage mids that we're used to seeing. So they have huge potential. I just feel like teams will expose their weaknesses more than saying like RSG Philippines. So let's see what they take into MSC though.
Yeah, it's interesting. The RSG teams are very similar in terms of their priorities in the game, how they want to play the game. Execution is different, different levels of refinement, but you can clearly see. I don't know if it's because the RSG teams, of course, they share the info, maybe they scrim, but yeah, you really see the similarity. So if you're looking at which team in the world is very similar to RSGPH, you say RSGSG. Because that's how they want to draft, that's how they want to play. But last thing I'm going to say about RSGSG before we go into Group C is that who's going to be playing Rome because LOLC is not playing. And to me, I made the report. That's why I put them at 3.5 stars. I was thinking of dropping them down to 3 because maybe it's my roamer bias, but not having your championship winning roamer in your team to play MSC feels like a big handicap, but I'm pretty sure there's a good reason why. And RSGSG, they're ready for it. But if it is gonna be Miku who's gonna be playing it, or I don't think LY4 plays Rome, does he? I haven't watched enough of RSGSG. See, Dan mentioned it. LY4 tank era. It's a crazy theory. That's the biggest question when you look at RSGSG and MSC. Who is gonna play Rome? And who is going to be swapping the roles around? Big question. All right. Now let's go to Group C. You have the group very difficult for IDNS. It's RQ Hoshi as the first team to enter Group C. Of course, champions of MPL ID. Burger Kim, RQ Hoshi. Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, there's a reason why they're the champions of MPL ID. And personally, if they play or if they have games in MPL ID, I always make it a point to watch. Albert is definitely one of the key players, to the point that I see some of the games players or teams would ban out like mostly Albert heroes. Such huge respect. I think even Mirko calls Albert like the kings of kings, right? The RRQ Hoshi. So I think Albert a lot of heroes under his belt, but this time I think with the tank meta, he's also quite good with the Baksha, quite good with the tank junglers as you call it. But I think he's mostly like his specialty is like the assassin. So RRQ Hoshi is a team that has a huge fan base as well. So if ever they do reach the grand final stage or even reach the playoffs semis, I feel like it's going to be a treat for everyone to watch.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of Filipinos, RQ Hoshi is the team that we probably respect the most in the world stage because of just the name that they carry. Albert alone. I remember watching the C games, and there were two games. I think it was either games. It was games 2 and 3 that really just surprised me with the performance of Albert. Wherein it was just retry after retry. Wise amazing with securing objectives, but Albert just made it look easy, not easy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he just made it look so flawless. Where it was a team
Yeah.
fight. As a Filipino, you're watching. Ah, no, Wise has this, bro. Then suddenly, bloop, Albert gets objective. Team fight gets turned around. They get the turtle. It's. I think at this point, Arkiyoshi, we're very familiar with Arkiyoshi. Is a team that we respect and we fear in the Philippines. So let's see what will happen to them in MSC 2022. Shout out to Vinci, by the way. Vince Tarel Teglao. I miss you, man. Love you too, bro. All right. IDNS. This is the team that I think for a lot of people, when we saw the group stage, we already felt the same way. Even though we want to see a team like IDNS succeed, of course, they were drawn into a very, very tough group. It's Arkiyoshi and Omega. From the initial research, Sue, what can you share about IDNS?
Man, I would say this: like, if let's say IDNS wins, to move forward, that's already going to be a huge upset if you think about it, because it's Omega and RRQ. So could you just imagine, the team coming from Thailand that doesn't have an MPL, but dude, if you watch their tournaments, I've actually casted their games as well in another tournament. These guys are insane, and Angelina especially if they get the Xavier. Like, I feel like that can be said about a lot of teams, but Angelina on the Xavier is insane. I do not sleep. Their threat level is 4 stars, right? But I think it could go potentially to even 5 stars because of the fact that with these teams that don't have these MPLs, you don't get a lot of time to watch what they have up their sleeves. That factor of kind of like mystery can actually play a huge role, especially going into a tournament like MSC, where again anything can happen. So also Wanwan's there as one of their strong picks for heroes, which is probably going to be a very well contested hero come MSC. But again, man, I think the last time they played, I think they swept the grand final as well, if I remember right. Because also in the other tournament that I played, they swept that too. So I'm saying these guys are insane, and I can't wait to watch them play. This is definitely probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest bracket, right? This team has to deal with. And I could just imagine the kind of upset that there would be if they take down either the defending champions of MSC, Smart Omega, or the powerhouse that is RRQ. And if they manage to do that alone, they just enter the playoffs. So that's already a huge statement in itself. So we'll see.
Ooh, IDNS. A lot of hype around them. You casted the Mekong qualifiers, right, Burger Kim?
Yeah, this is me. I was casting this one.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they reached up to, or they actually swept Team Vietnam, because Vietnam was actually a fan favorite, and based on stats, just Team Vietnam didn't lose any games in the group stages, and then when it came to the playoffs, IDNS was just a different. It kind of feels like like they crawled all the way from the lower bracket going up until the grand finals. They even swept Team Vietnam, so I was completely shocked. I thought we were gonna go to perhaps a 3-1 for the grand finals, but it ended up with 3-0, and we're like, oh my goodness, we ended up early. So it was crazy. Me and my co-caster were actually talking about it. The last game that Team IDNS put out was I think a Benedetta. They also put out a Gold Lane Yuzong, and then they had a Ling Angela. So which kind of means so my co-caster was asking, what are your predictions? Are we gonna go to a game number 4? I was like, no, I feel like this is gonna end really fast. I think this was the very game. Yeah, this was game number 3. It was super fast game, super fast pushes, and Team Vietnam just couldn't answer to IDNS. Feels like I'm watching a smart home. I feel like they won't be able to win it, and eventually they did. And I do like to highlight a little bit about the mid laner here of IDNS. A lot of people know Ramela, but in the middle of the tournament, in the middle of the Mekong qualifiers, for some odd reason, they switched out Ramela to Angelina. I feel like it's because Ramela only plays around the Eve. I've only seen her play an Eve, Farsa, Lilia, not so much on the Savior. So when they put Angelina out, there was a lot of Saviors. I feel like that last, the grand finals, actually, they just spammed that Savior. Angelina just went crazy with that Savior. So pretty much that. IDNS is a team that I hopefully they get chaos, but right now they're going up against Giants. So like what Naisu mentioned, I feel like it'll be a huge upset.
I like the all the info that you guys shared just like supplemented each other, so we have a much better idea of how IDNS plays. So now I'm excited to actually watch their group now. Because what if that's the biggest what if? What if IDNS might just be the poison to either RQ Hoshi or either to Omega? It's gonna be an interesting group to watch in Group C from
The
the
last
Thai
one to the last one.
representatives. Yeah, the last one. Oh, I like that.
Last one
Could
to the
they
last
be
one. I like that.
the last one to the last one? I like that. Gotta copyright that. Nice. Or drop that on a cast. Okay, so that's Group C. We'll round things out in what I see as more of a what? Oh wait, no wait. Omega, right? We have to talk about Omega. Omega. Key players here are Ryzen, Itomax, Kelra, although you can make a case there that instead of putting in Chaknu, I'm not sure who was the one who made this. I like that we're recognizing Brigida made this. I like that we're recognizing Ryzen more. Because I think the push of Omega to make it all the way to the grand finals wouldn't have been possible without Ryzen's improvement. I think we all remember that one interview where I think it was Coach Pakbet and Itomax who said that they really talked to Ryzen, told him all the things he needed to work on, improve. To put it in English terms, it's like they sort of just think of Ryzen as like a blade that they had to grind to make sharper, and then by the end, all the way when they finally made it to the grand finals, Ryzen is just a really, really sharp blade. He really owned this tank shift meta, the tank junglers. He plays so well with the Bakshias, the Karinas. He even played a mean Akai jungle during the playoffs and the grand final. So Ryzen is definitely one of the most improved players. And if a lot of the other countries are going to look at Omega and say, oh, we have to watch out for Chaklu, oh, we have to watch out for Kelra, the two players that really tore it up last MSC, they might overlook Ryzen, and that's going to be a big problem for teams. All right. So Omega, 5-star threat level. I agree with that, Brigida. And I'm glad that Ryzen has gotten more respect on his name with how he's been playing lately. And of course, heroes to watch out for them are Ling. Ryzen plays really mean Ling, but I feel like we have to watch out for Sakai jungle more. Of course, Keller on the Beatrix, and Itomax when he has heroes like the Eve, the Farsas, the Selena, of course, on Captain Itomax. You have to watch out for. And also, last thing I'm gonna say about Omega, if they end up in the lower bracket, if they're down no matter how many points, at this point, I'm not scared anymore because it's like, Omega will find a way to come back. It's just like that feeling now with Omega. Makaka-comeback yan. It's Omega, man. Like, they'll find a way to make a comeback out of it. So, that's
Late
Group
game
C.
lang yan.
Late game lang yan. Late day lang din yan. Kahit abot ng midnight, okay lang yan. 1 a.m., we're good. They're still going to be playing and they might still end up finding a way to win. All right. That is Group C. Let's go on over to Group D. This is the Wild West group that I see. You have Impunity, KH first up. Pretty familiar names. I think Impunity made a name for themselves in the last MSC when White Knight was still in Impunity, if I'm not mistaken. You still have Boom, Senpai, and OP playing in here, Xavier, Grok, and Paquito. For the MSC fans from last year, Boom was the guy on the Benedetta who forced a game number 3 against Execration back then. Very, very terrifying for the Filipinos at that time. This is Impunity KH. Any info you can share about Impunity, Burger Kim?
I'm trying to check the play. Oh, okay. It's still the same roster. So why does this region loves me so much? I've casted so many Cambodian, Thailand, and even Myanmar games. So I mean, so much love for that. So much love for that region. Thank you so much for loving me, for accepting me. So I feel like I'm already an quote unquote MPL caster for the region. So very thankful for that. But for Impunity, I feel like this is a team that I'll go to the predictions later on, but Impunity KH is a team that a lot of people underestimate, right? For Impunity, they've gone a long way from bagging like third place in their MPL, fourth place, and then I think for this time they actually made it to the grand finals, actually winners of MPL KH, and they really really deserved it. The way they played in the even in the smaller tournaments, they really did fantastic. And I think aside from the key players that was mentioned, you guys have to watch out for TYT. Is that how you read his name? T. Yeah, he's not one of the key players. He's the roamer of Impunity KH. So no hero you give him, whether it be a support, whether it be a tank, he can really, really be aggressive. He's like one of those players where when you play rank games, it's a Tigreal pushing your buff away. It feels like that with TYY, even if he uses a Matilda. So I think that is something that you guys also have to watch out for. TYY, Impunity KH. I do love to see them move forward. I mean, Impunity KH, yeah, right? A region that that is continuously growing when it comes to MLBB. So I would love to see more of them.
There you have it. Impunity KH. I do have to correct myself. Thank you to Stanley, who mentioned that it wasn't Boom, it was actually OP on the Benedetta. Yeah, I remember now. OP Benedetta was the Benedetta that scared us last MSC. All right. Let's talk about Orange Esports, second placers in MPLMY. The roster that had a Cinderella run, not a lot of people expected them to make it all the way to the grand finals, but they did. Although they dropped to Todak, but Orange Esports now are going to be going to MSC. Nice. What's your take on Orange?
Fun fact: there's actual twins on that team, Min and Man.
Yeah,
which is cool. Like, cool little side note, right?
That's super cool.
But yeah, and also Gary, like, this is, I feel like, why. Yeah, I think you're the one that did this, Renmar. The 3.5 stars. The main thing here with Gary, yes, he's amazing he's an amazing jungler, sick Fanny and everything. But there are times when Gary, similar things with the other teams that I mentioned, he'll try to make plays that don't work out, or sometimes you're like, why did he do that? You know, and Gary will have these great games, great KDAs, but then he ends up overextending a little bit too much. He dies at a bad moment, and then, you know, the other team against them takes the lead or whatever. So I hope that they work a little bit on their discipline, because discipline alone, I feel like, will bring them to the 4 stars. Again, Group D is a bloodbath of a group. It can go literally any way. And I would love, again, to see Orange Esports move on from here, because they have huge potential. And it's just, they need to fix those minor things, and discipline literally will play a huge role in their success. So that's it for about Orange Esports, man.
Yeah, Orange Esports. Hopefully we get to see more of Min and Man highlights, more interviews. Yeah, it's just so cool that they have their roamer and their mid laner are twins. If you are looking for their actual connection, spiritually, they shared an umbilical cord. My goodness, man, that's crazy. And of course, the story that they had, I think the story for Orange was, it was a quickly put together roster that not a lot of people expected to go far, and then they did go far. They made it to the grand finals. They faced Odak. Now here they are in MSC. That is Orange Esports from Malaysia. Let's round it out now with EVOS SG. There you have it. Sayla, JPL. I like that they were the focus here. If I'm not mistaken, it's actually JPL who plays the roam role more, and Sayla plays mid, unless they switch now. But I think ever since MPLI, EVOS SG has been my radar, and not gonna lie, JPL has been one of my favorite roamers in the world. And I think even in C games, it was the entire EVOS SG squad, if I'm not mistaken, was the Singapore representatives for C games, and they played incredibly well. So yeah, you have to watch out for Sayla. You have to watch out for JPL. JPL is a fantastic roamer. He's a fantastic tank. Sayla supplements him so well. Is this a team that Adamir? I think Adamir's the gold lane, if I'm not mistaken. I like how Adamir plays. I just like how
Yeah.
EVOS SG plays in general. Before we wrap up the groups, any quick thoughts that you guys want to share about EVOS SG, Birkim?
Well, yeah, I've casted their games as well. So I told you guys, like I've been casting like different countries, like MPL games, and yeah, it's crazy. For EVOS, this is EVOS Singapore, right? So, I feel like they really improved. They really improved from the last time I've seen them because for the most part, I haven't really heard much about EVOS Singapore. I mean, other than their under EVOS in Singapore. That's just it. Pretty much that's it. And after they played in the SEA Games, I think that was when everyone had their eyes on them, right? It's like, wow, you made, you gave Blacklist International, well, a very difficult game to win. I would say it wasn't a one-sided game. It was pretty much the closest game that I've seen that Blacklist International struggled a little bit. So I feel like for EVOS Singapore, it's just a team that really improved, and I would really love to see more of them in MSC, maybe even in the playoffs. Kahit hindi sila umabot sa grand. Okay, I don't know. Let's see.
What about you, Knight?
For me, man, I mean, they're a powerhouse of an organization. Very like OG. Like that's what I think about EVOS Singapore or EVOS in general. Like very OG, but at the same time, I feel like for MSC, they're going in with a little bit of chip on their shoulder because this was, they got runner up, right, in Singapore. They lost, and they're not. I feel like they're not used to losing, right? You can kind of say that. And so I feel like in MSC, especially with the performance that you guys were just mentioning in SEA Games, I feel like they have a bit of a momentum, even though it's been a little bit since SEA Games at this point. But I feel like they also have something to prove personally. And I think they're going to bring it to Group D. So if I had to choose between like the teams here for Group D, I think EVO Singapore has a really high chance of being one of the teams to move forward because again, I after what we've seen from them and just the experience that they have throughout their history, I think they have great potential here to move forward out of this group. But we'll see. Right, because the same can be said about Impunity, KH, and Orange.
Yeah.
Very exciting Group D, and it's for sure going to be a very exciting group stage for MSC 2022. June 11 and 12 are the first 2 days of MSC. That's where you'll see the teams that will advance into the playoffs, the end of MSC being June 19. It's going to be a long week and 2 days. Math is correct, yes. A long week and a day. 8 days of action is what I'm trying to say here.